NIO stock, how about this for a price range? $3.80 to $7.20. This was my response to someone who asked me my thoughts prior to the third quarter earnings. And I said, well, until inauguration, I'm talking about into January, that's kind of the price range, the how wide of a range and potential I think we could see. Now, I'm going to have to come back and do a separate video and break down and get a little more in depth with respect to why I'm thinking this on the wide range of the stock price in the short term. But I've got it pulled up just with the recent history, including the three major failed to deliver spikes that we saw in this year of 2024. And they all seem to have had an impact on stock price action, also the trade volume, also sentiment, which is why I have it on the ticker and will continue to keep it on the ticker until we have clarity with probably NIO stock eventually starting to move up into an uptrend that's very obvious. Until then, super short-term stock price action. It's the three indicators at the bottom of the screen. And again, separate video because I'll have to go more in depth. It'll take way too much time to include with this video. In this video, I want to talk about a couple of things that we learned from earnings and remind people or make them aware if they didn't know about second quarter earnings when we had indicators with respect to Onvo, the first sub-brand that NIO is slowly ramping and why it's a slow ramp. Also NIO and the brilliance of Mr. EQ, William Li, in positioning this company initially as a premium, sort of a luxury brand from China. We've never really seen this before. And I thought that was part of the brilliance, and what he was doing was establishing them within the premium sort of price range. If you want to, guesstimate it at about 300,000 RMB and above for the price range, they have started selling some a little lower than that. We'll look at that in a second, but this is as of October 2024, the BEV, battery electric vehicle brands. This is the volume rankings. NIO is at the number 5 spot, and that is with almost all of these sales coming from the premium segment, that piece of the market. By the way, now this is the breakdown of the price ranges. And if you'll note here, NIO, with some and most of these sales have come in this year of 2024, maybe even all of them in this price range below 300,000 RMB. They will have a lot more now that Onvo is going to be selling in this price range. Eventually, we will see Firefly in this price range, perhaps even here. And that is where the brilliance of William Li and what he's done with this by going after and targeting the high end, the premium sub-segmented piece of the market. Here is the reality, the big picture overview. And China is the slowest piece of the market to move to pure battery electric vehicles, has been the premium sub-segment. And this is what I'm talking about. Audi, BMW, and Mercedes have a lot of sales, but the heavy majority of their sales are blue, which depicts gas or ICE vehicle sales. And in the future in China, these are going to become either orange or green, orange being NEV, new energy vehicle sales, green being BEVs. But the brilliance in positioning early as a premium, legitimate, high-end brand gives NIO the early mover advantage. And oh yeah, if we go back to this breakdown, there is only one company that has the upgradable battery technology with the swappable play that NIO has, and that is NIO itself. In the future, some of their partners who are on this list will be joining them, and I think that will even further validate NIO in the big picture scheme of things. Let's now move over and talk a little bit about the second quarter earnings and why I think it's relevant to remind people or make them aware if they didn't know. This is from the second quarter earnings, which was September 5th. And in this earnings, there are two different places where I remember William Li kind of giving us these hints about why Onvo was going to be a slow ramp, and that was intentional. Right here is the first quote. Regarding the supply chain security, our target is that by the end of this year, so that's 2024, we hope that we can realize a supply capacity of 10,000 units. So 10,000 is the goal by the end of the year. And sometime next year, we will be able to realize a supply capacity of 20,000 units per month. This is for Onvo, the L60, the sub-brand, the first sub-brand that NIO is coming out with. And those are going to be coming in this price range. And so that is going to be separate, I think, from the NIO brand. I expect us to see Onvo rank and perhaps rank very high on here. More on that in just a second. This is the next sort of quote or reference from that second quarter earnings call. He says, we will start delivery from September, but not in a very significant volume. And toward the end of the year, we hope that our monthly delivery will be around 10,000 units for the month of December. Again, he's being consistent with what he's telling us. Here's the key point in my mind. In terms of the supply side, as the car is equipped with many new technologies, it will also take some time for the supply side to ramp up their production. I think this is about as clear as he could make it for those of us paying attention or who caught this. But if we move into the third quarter earnings call, which we just had, regarding our brand strategy, overall speaking, we think that using 2 or 3 brands to target different user groups is a success strategy for now. So again, that's the nod to Firefly and Onvo. And the brilliance of NIO is being positioned as really a truly premium brand, like a luxury brand. And maybe you can't afford that if you're in China, but if you can afford Onvo and Firefly, well, you know the reputation that NIO has. So there's more value, I think, and more of an attractive value play for those consumers in that more affordable and wider range, the mass market, if you will. So back to his quote. For the Onvo, it is still competing with other competitors in the same price segment. For right now, he says, when we are looking at the main source of Onvo users, a majority of them actually come from the Model 3 users. I think there are a lot of Model 3 sales. That means there is the potential for a lot more Onvo sales in the future. And by the way, shout out to Fluffing, one of my viewers who came through the comment section in a previous video and talked about how when they were in China, they talked to a lot of people. And sort of the view is Tesla is low tech for a lot of the younger generation. And they also consider NIO to be expensive, which means, again, a validation that it sounds like we're going to see high demand for Onvo and then Firefly when it comes out and is available in the more affordable price ranges. But here's the other quote from the third quarter earnings that I wanted to, again, bring up and kind of reiterate this, because I think he's saying this for a reason to let us know. He says, the L60 comes with a lot of cutting edge technologies. For example, it has a 900 volt hydrate architecture, which is also intertwined with the production and operation of the battery and powertrain systems. It also has a pretty advanced e-architecture operating system and digital system like Coconut, also equipped with a lot of new technologies. So such technology preparation will also take time. And we also didn't prepare a sufficient launch stock so that we will realize every high delivery in the first month. We actually believe that ramping up to 10,000 units per month in December, that is our third month of the full month delivery, and then ramping up to 20,000 in March next year is a reasonable speed and pace. I love this. I personally prefer this. I don't want them to have complaints by doing things wrong and ramping and getting things out too fast. If it's truly a high level product and they're wanting to be consistent with the branding that NIO has now established as it is high end, if this is the first sub brand, it's important for them to come out and make sure they deliver as sort of expected. You know, I think this is the big point here. We come back to this and look at NIO at the 5 spot without selling sub brand vehicles, you know, essentially having just started that. And they're already at the 5 spot for BEVs, but no other company up here yet has the optionality for the users to not only have a cheaper price on purchasing with BAS, battery as a service, but also to have the advantage of the shell of the vehicle maintaining its value, the smart EV part, essentially, by not having to purchase the battery. And oh yeah, it also, by being a user of NIO or Onvo or in the future Firefly, you also get the added value of access to upgradable, swappable battery technology, which is just huge. And until the other companies come out with their own products, I don't think we're fully going to recognize or grasp just how dominant NIO can be. But I do think that the one thing for me that is clear, at least in my mind, I don't see NIO being anywhere outside of the top 5 globally in the long term, just because of their play, not only with the power swap stations, but the closed ecosystem that includes the upgradable battery swappable technology, and the fact that now they have established themselves as a premium, legitimate player, and they're coming in with more affordable brands. I think this was a brilliant play, and the way that they have done this is as good or better than I could have hoped. But I'm also fine with waiting until we see, for example, 1 million NIOs on the road, only about 620,000 of them so far, meaning it could be a couple more years. I'm absolutely fine with that. In the short term, I'll come back and talk about the stock price action and what my thoughts are with that. But I wanted to get this video out. I know some people were wondering why I didn't get something out over the weekend, and I had actually started and then realized that just the price action, all the things going on with that was going to take way too much time. So I'll come back and do that as a separate video. Thanks for stopping by, especially if you made it to the end. Drop it in the comments and let me know if you made it to the end. I'm curious how many people will actually watch to the end. Thanks. Have a great day. I'll see y'all again very soon.